the terror of Monster Hunter 4, Gore Magala, or Gore Magara. And yes, he can transform into his enraged state. Gore is a huge fan favorite, and I feel since he's associated with demons, he'd be a great fit for the month of October. As always, instructions for this monster are on my Patreon. My instructions always come with a parts list and a guide on how to purchase the pieces on bricklink.com, the #1 LEGO resale site. I've made it as streamlined as possible. My instructions even come with a little file that automatically creates a shopping cart of all the pieces you need to build Gore Magala. I do this with all my instructions. Sorry I have to say this every time. It's just because there's always someone new who doesn't know these things, and I want to make sure that everyone knows it's as easy as possible to buy the parts to build this guy right here. I made it so simple. I based my Gore Magala model off of his Monster Hunter 4 model, with a little bit of extra influence from his recent revision in Sunbreak, but he really hasn't changed much between both games. Like with all my monsters, Gore Magala is sized accordingly with my other monsters, so you can see him next to a Rathalos, and that's pretty much the proper size according to Rathalos. He looks pretty small when he has his wings on his back and he sort of has the cape thing going, but the moment you take out his wings, he practically like doubles in size. Like usual, bring in some other figures to compare. Here is a random minifigure, and he's relatively right for LEGO, maybe a little bit on the big side, maybe it's a crown size, and then some other figures, a random Bionicle and a random Gachapon figure. Overall though, I think the size is pretty reasonable. I'm actually really happy with how small I managed to make the head. Usually on these models, the head is way too big for the body, like Brachydios was a really bad example of that. But with Gore Magala, I've made it pretty small, pretty reserved. The only downside with its smallness is when the horns go up, you can see the light gray pieces right here, and that's just because LEGO doesn't provide these pieces in any other color, so we're kind of stuck with it being the light gray. Also, his mouth doesn't really open very wide, which is not preferable, but I think I did a pretty good job. You have the horns, they can go up and down, the mouth can open. As I mentioned earlier, Gore Magala can transition pretty easily from his the state where the wings are behind him to the state where the wings are up. And look, nothing's breaking. I spent a lot of time perfecting this to make it as easy as possible to get that look and not have anything break on you, and so that you can actually play with this, you can actually have fun, make him do the attacks. I feel like this model, if this was given to a kid, the kid is not going to break it unless they were really, really roughhousing. But most kids that play with LEGO know that it's a little bit breakable and are a little bit careful with it. But I think a kid would really, really enjoy this model just because it is actually just fun to play with, and it holds its shape really, really well. It has the general posability of most of my models, so like the neck can go up, the neck can go down, the arms can move forward and back pretty wide, the lower arms can sway side to side, all of the fingers are posable, the tail can move side to side pretty well. Actually, it can move pretty far in comparison to some of my other monsters. I find these pretty fun to swoosh around. He holds his shape. He looks pretty good when he's flying. The only part of him that really has like no posability is the back legs. They're on a ratchet joint, and there's no real knee articulation. But honestly, you're not going to be posing the back legs at all if you're going to be playing with him, or even posing him in general. They don't really move, so there's no point in even really having that posability since you won't be using it. My only real grievance with this model is the lack of thumbs on the wing arms. I know that on the actual monster it's 3 fingers and then a thumb. My model only has the 3 fingers, not the thumb. I tried everything, I just couldn't achieve the thumb while also making this model sturdy and keeping it on the small scale. It's just an unfortunate sacrifice. But otherwise, like, I feel the wings look fantastic. I think these are actually the best wings I've made on any of my models. And I owe it all to these fabric pieces, which these are official LEGO pieces in the official LEGO catalog. They're from one of those like furry sets that they did a few years ago. You need 2 of these fabric pieces in order to make this model, and unfortunately, because they were only released in like one of those furry action figure sets, they are the most expensive pieces in this model. Actually, I'm pretty sure the average resale price on just one of these cape pieces is something like $15 US. I think I spent at least $40 Canadian, maybe closer to 45, just to get these 2, which means that more than half of the model, when you buy the parts, you're actually just paying for those pieces for the wings. The rest of the model is pretty cheap to make. So if you want to make Gore Magala and you don't have all the money to spend, or you're trying to save some money, any cheap fabric, if you want to just cut it up yourself, but I do obviously recommend using the official LEGO pieces because they will hold their shape, they won't rip, and I've designed my model around those pieces, so it just makes it easier overall. I also want to apologize. As you can see, I haven't mentioned any talk of alternative instructions for Chaotic Gore Magala or Shaguru Magala. I don't plan on doing anything for Shaguru Magala or Chaotic. Maybe someday, if LEGO releases a similar material piece that's in gold, I could maybe do Shaguru, because the way that they use their wings, I couldn't just do it like I do with the Rathalos. I feel that it would work better if I actually had like a material piece like I'm using here. Maybe someday I'll do the instructions for Chaotic, but like everyone's asking for so many different instructions and I'm trying to redo them all. I'm just not prioritizing Chaotic right now. I need to prioritize like stuff like Tigrex, or Nargacuga. But maybe someday I'll do Chaotic. Okay, now for my quick thoughts on Gore Magala in-game. I, like many others, really like Gore Magala. I believe Gore was a fantastic villain monster for Monster Hunter 4, and probably is still the best antagonist that Monster Hunter has ever seen. I'll save my thoughts on his role in the story in Monster Hunter 4 for my Monster Hunter 4 review when I eventually do that. Maybe, someday. I promised it. It's coming. I don't know. I can talk about Sunbreak, though. I felt his inclusion in Sunbreak was kind of fell short. He was sort of just there. And this is a problem with like a lot of flagship monsters whenever they return. Monsters like Tigrex and Nargacuga, like they're neutral enough to sort of just, you can just place them in ecosystems and be like, oh, they're just there. Like they don't need to have a big fanfare about them. They blend into the game pretty easily. But Gore is different. He was built up to be a very specific and special monster. He has this huge impact on communities and on the local ecosystems. So it's strange to have him back and he's just like a whatever monster and he doesn't really do anything. He's just kind of a pushover, and he was a pushover in Sunbreak. I felt that he hasn't changed much since his appearance in 4th gen games. And the players have just gotten a lot better, The hunters have gotten faster, they're more effective, they have all these new attacks, and Gore just does the same things he did in Monster Hunter 4. I also feel that they probably could have made the Frenzy virus more involved into the story somehow, alongside the Anomaly monsters. Probably better meshed with the game if they played with that idea a bit. We already have Apex monsters alongside the Anomaly monsters, so why not also have Frenzy monsters? I don't think anyone would complain. I know something similar was in Frontier, where you had like Zenith monsters and like Extreme monsters. Was it Hardcore? I don't know. There was multiple different powered up versions all in the same game. I feel like Capcom, you could go nuts again, especially for something like Sunbreak. It's fine. I don't think anyone will actually complain. He's very cool though. I do like him in Sunbreak, and I do like him in 4. I think he's just a cool monster. I feel like everyone says, oh, he's cool, because he is cool. I think he's really clean and well designed. He's a great flagship, and I think that he fits alongside a lot of the other contemporary monsters that were made around in 4th gen. So he fits in pretty well. Well, that's everything for this video. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to give special thanks to my patrons. Thank you all for your support. I appreciate it. As always, check out my Patreon for instructions on this build, as well as instructions on many other builds. I actually just released the small Centaur But I have a bunch more big ones on the way. Speaking of, I promised that next time would be a double feature on Kezu and Giganox. I actually need to fix Giganox up. Like, Kezu, I'm happy with. I can probably make instructions for him right away. But Giganox, I don't know. He's sort of lacking. He's from that older generation of builds I did like a year ago, and I feel like I could do a lot better now. So I'm going to improve him just a little bit before I do the instructions. So there might be a delay. Hopefully not, because I want to get all of these like horror-themed monsters out for October to fit the theme. You know, Halloween and such. Alright, see you all later. Next time is these two. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Bye.